Today on Acoustic Alternatives, we are doing another session from Grove Studios, who are great hosts for me and have been for the entire length of this podcast. And again, I will remind those who are new to the podcast, maybe that's not a reminder if you're new, I suppose, that without Grove Studios, I would not be doing a podcast. There would be no me doing this. It was a loss of a radio job that I had for nearly 15 years and a sympathetic couple of folks who own this place who said, we want you doing your thing that you love. And so I said, okay, fine. I acquiesced to maybe the world does need another music-based podcast, and here it is. So Grove Studios in Ypsilanti, previously used by my guest, Annie Bacon, is here today.
Oh, yeah. This place is great.
When have you used this as a spot for your own self?
I mean, the first time I used it was back in 2019, getting ready for my big album release. And
a big album release for this album, which we'll put in the camera.
The same, I know, which it's crazy that was already 4 years ago. It's just like, it both feels like 18 lives ago and also like 10 minutes ago, you know. I think time has warped for everybody.
It has been. Yeah. I think there's 2 to 3 years of life that doesn't seem to really exist.
Yeah. And our life kind of, like my personal, we had a series of deaths that happened right before, like in between me releasing the album and the pandemic starting. We had 3 people die in our lives. And so time is warped.
Well, I'm glad to welcome you to the podcast. Currently, you're Ann Arbor based. We will get into some of your back history and where else you've been. Yeah. There have been 3 albums and 3 EPs and a single since you made your musical debut, and you brought a guitar with you.
I did.
I think it's good to start with the song.
Okay.
What song would you like to start with?
I think I'll start with one of my newer songs. It's called When Will I Learn?
When will you learn?
That is the question.
Okay. Maybe we'll learn during the song when you will learn. Annie Bacon on Acoustic Alternatives.
You say you'll be different now, 'cause you've changed. You can see it now, that you will burn like you always do. You never learn, you never do. But okay, I'll try again. I'll lean in, give you a chance again. You will burn like you always do. I never learn, I never do. You can't change what you are. You're a dying star. One step closer to you and the heat bears down. I wanna run like I always do. I wanna run. What you are, you're a dying star. One step closer to you and the heat bears down. I wanna run like I always do. I wanna run. Not elemental, I'd find a way to escape into exile, far away from the heat of your love. When will I learn? When will I learn?
Nice. Classic sounding music there from Annie Bacon on Acoustic Alternatives. One of the songs that has yet to be released, correct?
Yet to be released.
From a forthcoming album?
I am working on 2 different albums right now. So this is from one of them, but this is not the one that will come out first.
Just to tease people.
Yeah.
That's mean. But
Oh,
no.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
I know.
Just
I was
kidding.
thinking, I was like, maybe I should put it on both of them because the other one is like actually like a real departure from my sound. That the song that is on the album that's on. I'm sorry. It's sort of like has a lot of electronic influence on it, so it's like electro folk. But that song I feel like could kind of live on both of the albums. So I'm like, maybe I should just have two versions
I
of
think
it.
that would be okay. I like that version, and I don't know the other version, but I mean, I can kind of imagine it with some electro stuff in it.
Yeah.
Abigail Stauffer did a bit of that on one of her albums where she incorporated some electro stuff, and it was really
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
A duet that she did with Chris DuPont that has this like very
need to hear
otherworld. Yeah, you do. It's from a few albums ago, but we
Cool.
could talk about that another time because this is about you.
It's about me.
So, backstory for you: you started in New England.
Yeah.
So take me on a journey from New England to California to Michigan.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about young you.
Wow, what a question. I'm going to tell you a story. Okay, so first of all, I was born in Maine, but then right after I was born, my parents left. My father was he was in school when I was born, and then he was going to grad school in upstate New York. And so my first 5 years, we kind of bounced around a bunch of places, but ended up back in Maine. So that's where I was raised, my childhood. But when people ask me, where did you grow up? I'm like, well, it depends on how you define grow up.
The formative years, I think, is what people mean. Like, where did you become you? Because when you're
Well, that's the thing,
0 to
right?
5, you're a little bit you, but you don't really become you until you're 11, 12, 13, right?
Well, I kind of feel like I became me in California.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
I didn't move there till I was 22.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so I went to school in upstate New York, actually the same town that my dad went to grad school in, different school, Ithaca, New York. And then after college, I had a friend who was moving to the Bay Area, and she wanted me to come with her, but I was like, I can't make plans. I got to be free. And then about a week before graduation, my grandfather, who had been dead about 10 years at that point, came to me in the dream, and he said, go to California. And it was one of those kinds of dreams that you don't say no to.
You can't ignore that. No one else was telling you that.
Yeah, and I had never even been there, and I moved there with like $75 and a credit card and a car. I mean, it's just so dumb in retrospect.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I would have never done that.
Yeah, it was pretty dumb, but it was great too. I moved there with my best friend in the world, and we just, a beautiful life ensued. So I was out there for 17 years. But the thing I want to tell you about a young me is a memory that actually popped up recently. So my dad was one of the people who passed away not long after the album came out. And this really, so it took about 30 seconds into this podcast before I started talking about death. And that's like,
It's
maybe
consumed you lately.
that's been a big part of my life. And so anyway, one of the gifts that can kind of pop up out of nowhere after someone dies, as you probably know, is like when suddenly a memory comes from nowhere and you're like, oh yeah. And it's just such a treasure. And I had this one the other day of being probably, 8 or 9. And I'm one of 4 kids. And we had this Aries K, this god-awful, ugly car. But it's like what we had. And it was like a bucket seat in the front, or like a bench seat in the front and a bench in the back. So my parents and my baby sister were up front, right? So that sets your time
That sounds
period.
safe.
So the baby sister, like not even in a car seat. And then the other 3 kids were in the back. And I remember everybody passed out. We were driving down to Rhode Island. Everyone passed out. And I sang the entire 2 hours. And my dad never turned on the radio. He was like, never put on his audiobook. He never said a word. He just let me, my little head tipped against the window, just singing song after song, one after the other. And like, I think about that as a parent now, the kind of patience that it takes to just like let your kid just do that.
Be that,
yeah. It's just such a sweet memory. So that's
beautiful.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff were you singing then?
Who knows? God.
I hope you do, because I wasn't
9
there.
years old. So I come from like a big Irish family, and there was a lot of, a lot of songs like, we were sailing along on Moonlight Bay, on Moonlight Bay. Remember those ones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So probably that kind of stuff. Cause I think that was like before New Kids on the Block. invaded my consciousness. So
Something good happened, at least in your life.
Yeah.
No, no, I'm just kidding. Do you remember who it was that made you want to sing and or play the guitar and or write songs?
Ooh, great questions. So the Big Irish family is who made me want to sing. And specifically, it was like the magical experience of being in a room full of, 50 people, 60, 70 people, however many were gathered at that time. And somebody would just like call out like number 34 and the whole room would just erupt into a song and like 3-part harmonies or 4-part harmonies. And like, not everybody had a good voice, but it didn't matter. It was just like this, just this beautiful thing of people singing together in the harmony. So that's where my love of singing came from for sure. Playing the guitar was a little, I love my guitar, no disrespect.
It can't hear you. Oh, wait a minute.
But I play the guitar because it is the easiest tool to, the vehicle for the songs. Yeah. But I really, I used to be a bass player and that I really love that instrument and hope at some point in my life I can kind of come back to that. And that it was, I don't play anything like Les Claypool, but that's sort of who got me really interested in the bass.
Because he's a damn good bass player.
Yeah. And then like Edgar Meyer, people who can do things like I don't know if you've ever heard. So Edgar Meyer, classical bassist. He actually did the Bach cello suites.
With Chris Thiele, right?
He did it by himself on upright bass.
Okay.
And so just this really incredible thing of being able to do, the bass is just such an incredible instrument. And I mostly have played electric bass. I did play upright for a little while before I got pregnant. And then it got, like, I was huge when I was pregnant. I mean, it was like, it was huge.
Can't imagine that.
I couldn't even reach. I mean, I literally couldn't reach the neck of the bass anymore. So, and then I had to give it back. But anyway, so bass is really the instrument that I fell in love with first. But it's hard to play good bass lines and sing lead for me and for a lot of people.
Geddy Lee's an exception.
Yeah, and
Les too.
Yeah, and who's the Rush guy? He can do it.
Geddy Lee.
Oh, Geddy Lee. That's what you said. I thought you said Kathy.
No, Geddy. No, not Kathy Lee Gifford. No, that would be weird. No, Geddy Lee
Kathy,
from Rush.
Okay, I'll have to look up who that is. Geddy Lee can do it. Les Claypool can do it. Sting does it.
Yeah.
But he plays very simple bass lines, and that's cool. But I would rather have a really good bass player in my band who can play beautiful bass lines. And
McCartney.
Yeah. Yeah, or my friend Paul DeFiglia, who plays bass in a bunch of this album and is who I'm recording with when I go down to record the album that song's not on.
Very good.
But yeah, who was my songwriting? Who made me fall in love with songwriting was your other question, right?
Yes.
So the first record that I bought with my own money was Tom Petty, Wildflowers, which I really loved. But I think my first real love of songs was Cat Stevens. And a friend, he was like on a mixtape, of course, that somebody made. And I was like, who's that? And Father and Son was the song. And that, it's just a masterful song. Yeah, I don't think you need me to say more about that.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
So while you were developing your young self in high school, did you get yourself involved in like musicals, or were you just a student?
Yeah, I did lots. I did musicals. I was in a band called Venus, and we had some like really sick 3-part harmonies, and we really played with like dissonance, and we like in retrospect, I'm like really impressed by us. I wish we had some recordings. There was a recording. We went into a studio, but I'm like, because I found a like piece of paper from the guy who we recorded with. He wrote us this letter afterwards. I am just like, I guess we're on a podcast, so it's okay if I'm rambling, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I found recently this letter from him from when we were in high school, thanking us for being a good influence on his daughter. And I didn't even remember that we had gone into a studio. So I was like, oh, who has those recordings? Anyway, but that was Venus. my friends Nicole and Stephanie. And I was in all the musicals, and I thought that musicals was going to be my path in my life. And then, being the third of 4 kids, when it was time to go to college, I basically had to just go wherever they gave me the most, money.
Yeah.
So I got into Ithaca College, and they were like, you didn't get into our musical theater program because like 8 people get into that, but pick another major and you can come here and we'll give you a bunch of grants. And so I picked politics, which seemed close, acting, politics is what I was
about politics as a musician.
Yeah. But it actually ended up being amazing because it taught me how to think and how to learn, and gave me so much to write about. So rather than just like learning how to pretend to be somebody else, I learned how to be myself and how to connect more deeply to humans. And so that was really my angle with politics, was like a study of like human connections and human power. And yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, as I was researching and listening and reading other interviews that have been done with you, I found the musical soft rock Tom Waits Pink Floyd Alt J as part of your that's kind of a weird arc. I mean, Tom Waits could almost be soft rock, depending on what you're thinking of Tom. But I mean, that is kind of weird. Though if you listen to all of these 3 CDs, which is what I've been having in my car for the last couple of weeks, it's you don't necessarily hear those things, but you do hear a variety of sounds like I just described. So today, this one is a little bit more what you were doing a moment ago.
Yeah.
More that singer-songwriter where we kind of have this beautiful scene in Michigan, as you've discovered since you moved here.
Yes.
It fits neatly into that. I'm not sure that these neatly fit into the singer-songwriter scene. There's a little bit more rock on this one. This one has some French singing on it. Okay. I'm not sure I completely understand who Annie Bacon is until... maybe you're still trying to define yourself as well as you get farther into your recording career.
Yes. First of all, thank you for saying that, because I really appreciate that. It means that you really have listened to the music, because you hear the seeking that's happening and the shifting and the growing. And I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I heard it said once, and I think it's very true for me, that one of the things that's really frustrating about being a new artist is that your taste is here and your skills are here. And so your whole career, you're just trying to get your skills to the place that match your vision. So I think that that's what's been happening all along. And always trying to find ways to really bring the vision out of my head. And so each of these is an opportunity, but it also represents a different set of collaborations.
Recorded in California, recorded in Michigan, or also recorded in California?
That one was actually recorded in a bunch of different places. One song was done here in Michigan, but 7 of them were in Nashville, and a couple of them were in California. A couple of them were kind of sending back and forth, so in multiple places. But I think that I'm a much better songwriter now than I have been. And I hope I never stop saying that. I hope that for the rest of my life, I'm constantly saying I'm the best songwriter I've ever been.
I think of it like a job. If you get farther into your job, 15 years into your job, you should be better at it.
You should be better.
Because if your best time was 15 years ago, well, maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah. And maybe, the moment has kind of shifted.
It's a little different with songwriting because that requires creativity and not stealing other people's ideas. Going to work like I do, I just have to practice what I do to get better at all the things I do.
Yeah.
For you, it's practice, but you're also honing your craft, right?
Yeah, but part of the way you hone your craft is you steal from other people. So that's the funny thing.
Yeah.
Right. Is you learn how to write like other people and practice. And one of the ways, playing covers is a great way to do that, because you're one, a thing that I'm obsessed with on this album is the, in the major key, the 4 chord is let's say we're playing in C. We're going to get nerdy for just a second. I won't go too deep.
It's okay.
So if we're playing in the key of C, the 4th chord is going to be a F major. But something the Beatles did a ton that I learned from playing their songs is that they play that F major, and then right after it, they play an F minor. And it has this really kind of like, kind of twisty feel that like it takes you out of the key for a second in this way that just feels really nice. And so, playing their songs, I like learned that trick from them. And then I put it in most of the songs in this album.
But you can't tell you're stealing from the Beatles.
Yeah, it because like first you steal and then you let it influence you. So, but I do have a very wide palette of music that I'm interested in. I love a lot of pop music. I love classical music.
Come and look at my collection in my house. It's pretty wide. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much good music. There's so much good music.
I could listen to something new every day and never get caught up.
Yes. I've been like really a little bit obsessed lately with Bad Bunny.
Okay.
He has an album, Puerto Rican artist, amazing pop musician who, like, I listen to some of his older stuff and it's like, it's okay, it's good. It's got a little bit, it's just like a little bit more, it feels like factory pop feel. But he has an album called, I'm going to butcher this, Un Verano Sin Ti. I'm a French speaker, that's Spanish.
Yeah.
A Summer Without You. But it is really like exquisite the way that it's composed and his singing style. Like there's a lot of skill that goes into, what he's doing. And anyway, there's something to learn from everything great.
There you go.
Yeah.
This seems like a good time to throw in another song.
Okay.
There's a guitar over there.
Let's do it. Well, now I want to play a song that has that major to minor shift in it. So let me.
That also shifts the idea of what songs you were playing.
Yeah.
You had come in with a couple of ideas.
Yeah, I'm gonna this is very much how I function.
Go
too.
for it.
Like,
And we can alter the 3 to 4 as well if you want.
Yeah, maybe I'll do 4.
Okay. What song are you singing and tell me about it?
This is one from that album, and it's called Gallatin Pike. Okay, hold on. I need my foot on the floor. There we go. Okay. Driving Gallatin Pike in the middle of the night. I don't know which way to turn. Pawn shops and strip malls, a mirror of my life. I think of the forests I've burned, the hearts I've paved over, the men that I have spurned. An impossible daylight floods parking lots where I'm haunted by so many lessons unlearned. Ghost town veneer of the plans I held dear. Oh, is this what my life's become? Just like Gallatin Pike in the middle of the night. All around me are places I've laid down at night. I don't even know what they're named. Too tired for thinking about what's really right. My rain-spitting tires get blamed for the hearts I've paved over, where concrete lays claim, and tomorrow's reflected on both sides for miles in the twisting arms of the neon flame. Ghost town veneer of the plans I held dear. Oh, is this what my life's become? Just like Gallatin Pike in the middle of the night. What if I can't get off? What if this is my end? as soon as I turn up, I see front porches and lawns. Guess life is bigger than the sins of its pawns. The fears we hold on to don't hold up for long. Gallatin Pike's just the name of this song. Isn't it nice to find out that sometimes we're wrong?
My guest today on Acoustic Alternatives, Annie Bacon, a song you can find on her latest full-length record, Nothing Stays the Same, Gallatin Pike. And we are at Grove Studios. Annie's been here before. I've been here quite a few times. This is the 61st podcast recorded here, I believe.
Wow.
And they have been excellent hosts, as I mentioned in the beginning. And we do like to tell people their motto is get out of the garage and get into the studio. So if you have like a band or maybe you're a DJ, because there's DJ rooms here as well. I don't think you know that, but if you want to like practice your mixing skills and blast it as loud as you want, no one cares here. It's a warehouse district. So, you know, it's a place to consider if you're in one of those situations, a band or a podcaster like myself, where you can put yourself in a studio and not worry about, I don't have any microphones. Yes, you do. You have 4 to pick from right here. Actually, there's one I kind of want to do on the road, but I don't have any microphones. And so I'm kind of stuck going, can I pull that one off? Can I find a way to get a Scottish artist who's playing a house concert this Friday into the studio on a day I don't really have time to do it? So this would be the best place to do it. Grove Studios. Look them up. Anyway.
Yeah, actually, and I will also pitch out to anyone who's an artist who's listening that they have tons of the gear here that you need too. So like you bring your band in, they don't need to bring amps. They've got great guitar amps. They've got they got drum kits. They've got keyboards. They've got you can plug in and record yourself. You can plug in and do video recording. You can do live streaming. I mean, it's really just an incredible place, and it's like super cheap. Hourly rate.
It is pretty super cheap.
Open 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, 24/7 keypad operation. So
yes.
At some point during the 61 episodes, I have had for a total of 12 of those, I have had a sponsor, and that has helped pay for some of the expenses. However, now, just recently, one of my friends has really been pushing me for a year or so to try Patreon. So there is a Patreon page now for Acoustic Alternatives. I will have a link on this video. If you search my johnbomarito.com Acoustic Alternatives page, you'll see the link to Patreon there as well. So if you feel like what I do is worth something to you as a listener, or whether you're watching or listening, the audio or the video, and you want to support $3, $5, and $10 levels exists, there are bonuses for people at the $5 and $10 level. You get to hear things that I can't tell you what they are, but there's some cool things that I've done in my past that you might be interested in hearing about. So anyway, back to you. Sorry about that.
No, that's great.
So 10 years before you released this album, you released your first EP way back when you were living in California, but then eventually you found your way to Michigan and put this one out while you were living here. What brought you to Michigan, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so my partner at the time, he grew up in the area, so we had to leave San Francisco for multiple reasons.
It's expensive, for one.
That was a big one, yep. And he was looking for jobs around here, and so we could be close to his family, and that worked out, and we moved here, and you know, it's been so great for our kid who's sitting right over there right now. Yeah,
don't tell.
But it's an amazing town to live in. So living in the city with a little kid, you know, their playtime is just always observed. You have to go to the playground for 45 minutes or whatever. And then there's also, we lived in the Mission District, which is one of my favorite places on earth. But with a little kid, there sort of had to be this distinction of like, there's good dirt and there's bad dirt. You know, you can't play in the bad dirt. And so when we moved to Michigan, like in that first couple of days even, I remember him looking at me. He was, I think, 6 when we moved here. And he looked at me and he's like, Mommy, is it good dirt or bad dirt? And I was like, honey, it's all good dirt now. Yes. It's all good dirt. So
it's a fabulous place.
Yeah.
I was wearing my Support Michigan Music shirt at a Cleveland Indians game not so long ago, and some kid said, hey, Michigan. Yeah, Michigan sucks. Like, he was doing the Ohio State Michigan thing, but I wasn't wearing any like U of M or MSU. Yeah. They're like, dude, have you been to Michigan? Because you're missing out. So now that you've been part of,
funny part.
It is. You've been part of 2 different music scenes. You've been part of one in California, one in Michigan. Yeah. And I'm sure they both have their things, but maybe compare them for me. So as I only know this one.
Well, every other music scene is terrible, and this one's great. No, I'm just kidding.
I like hearing that.
I love the music scene. I know you've heard me, and I think you teed this up because you probably have like read me talking about how much.
Maybe.
Yeah. I had no idea. When we were coming here, in my head, I was like, I'll be a day drive to Nashville, so I won't have to fly. That'll be the center of my musical life. I had absolutely no idea what an amazing scene there was here. And I want to shout out Annie Capps, dear friend.
Previous podcast guest.
Of course. I love it. Because like a month after I moved to town, I was over at Big Blue Sky.
Big Sky, Ann Arbor.
Yeah. And Jeff was working. And I was like, hey, I'm kind of new here. Is there anybody I should know? Like, tell me about the scene. And he was like, oh, geez, scratched his head. Like, I don't really know. And he had one name for me, and that was Annie Capps. And I was like, man, in retrospect of all the possible people, that Annie Capps is like the center of the musical universe. And I messaged her on Facebook, and I was like, can I take you out for a beverage? And she was like, hell yes. And we met up and we talked for 2 hours, and then she's just like, I'm at Folk Alliance with her, and she's like, meet this person, meet this person, meet this person. So she really was I don't know what's the right word. She opened the door.
She's a connector. She's
incredibly generous. So yeah, and then I ended up going to a great open mic at Ghostlight in Detroit for a bunch of months before the pandemic, and Joe Sarah Pear, Michelle Held, Audra Kubat, Ryan Dillaha, they all were stalwarts down there, and Mike Ward, sweetest guy. And actually, I met Mike in a different way through somebody. Anyway, we had another connection, so we were fated to meet, which is great because he's one of my favorites. But yeah, I think one of the things about the scene that I love here is that it's incredibly supportive.
Yes, it's not very competitive.
Yeah.
It's more like, hey, how can I help you?
How can I help you? How can I show up for you? Yeah. And people just sitting in the front row at each other's shows being like, you got this, just so much love and support. And at the same time, a total nerd out on craft. People love songs here. And so it's not just blind support. It's also let's be better songwriters together. And
take that, Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so the Bay Area and Nashville both, I think they both have many things about them that are fabulous and amazing and wonderful. But yeah, definitely people are trying to get famous, and that's their number one priority. And so I think that probably it makes a lot of sense to get there when you feel like your craft is where you want it to be and you're ready to present, But I just love songs. I love writing. I'm a writer before everything else. And so coming to a place where there were other people who loved the actual craft of songwriting as much as I did it's a dream come true, and I just feel so lucky. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads into one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Okay. The name of your band is Her Ocean. And I thought to myself, wonder what that means. And my hypothesis is that it's an ocean of people. Yeah. Though you've not spelled it as ocean.
Yeah.
Did I get it right?
You totally got it right.
High five to me.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
High five across the way. Yeah. So originally when I imagined it, it was the phonetic spelling. So it was going to be O-SH and then the schwa and then an N. But there's no keyboard shortcut for a schwa. And
so you had to change
which is
your
the upside down E. And so every time I made a show poster, I had to take a little picture of an E and flip it. And I was like, okay, that's done. I'm not doing that.
It also has she in the middle. She and she. Okay. Not that all your band members are women, but if they were, that would also work.
That would be amazing. I mean, I don't want to throw out any one of the amazing men who have played on these, but someday I hope I have an all-female band. That would be great.
Yeah, it would. One of the reasons I asked you about whether you were involved in musicals as a high school student is because you yourself have written an opera, and the folk opera in 2011. Before that, were you familiar with Jay Steelstra from the Michigan music scene's North Country Opera?
I was not. And I wrote my folk opera actually in 2008.
Okay.
And I have also written a musical recently.
I know.
Oh, we're getting there.
Yes,
okay.
we are.
Yeah, so the folk opera, that was like a total moment of hubris. I thought I was inventing folk operas, which is really embarrassing to admit
No,
at
not
this
at
point.
all, because the first person who does it thinks they're the first person who did it.
Well, I also like had never played the ukulele. I think it was like December I played a ukulele for the first time, and then in January I left on my trip, and I was like, I'm going to write a folk opera on the ukulele while I'm on my journey. And I did, to my credit, but, I look back and I'm like, wow, there's really, there was a lot of hubris.
Did you go to the when they redid the North Country Opera at the Ark?
They were all sold out by the time I heard about it. I missed it. I'm so sad.
It was so good.
I
don't know the original, so I went
Okay.
because, my friends are in it. I
Yeah.
see Rochelle's in it and Brad's in it. Okay,
Oh
I
my
have to
God,
go. I
I
have to
would
go.
love to be there.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Speaking of mutual friends, Kyle Rasche and you worked on The Keeper. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so The Keeper is, we wrote this musical about the White Shoal Lighthouse, which is a real lighthouse. It's off the coast of Lake Michigan, about 7 miles off the coast. So it's like an isolated, crib lighthouse, they were called, built on these like concrete cribs. And Kyle had this idea, and he knew I had written a folk opera, so I think that's why he kind of threw it at me. But when he mentioned it to me, it was like a poltergeist. And it was like, I also grew up in a town where there was a lighthouse that had a very strong presence. I grew up on the ocean. And so I've always had a love of lighthouses kind of, in my subconscious. And I was just coming right off of writing my first draft of a novel that I'm working on. And he's like, I can do the music, but like I need help with writing the actual like scenes in the book and that kind of stuff. And I was like, here's that hubris again. Well, I'm a writer. I can write. And I literally went back we were at the Folk Alliance conference. I went back to my room and I wrote like 8 pages of his story. I named his characters. This was like an hour after he mentioned the idea to me for the first time. But it was like in both cases, I think there's something that happens like, it's just this like, you feel that you just get moved by something. And it's like, if you show up to that moment, then it just kind of like, happens. And I'm very grateful and lucky that he wasn't like, what did you just do? Like, back off, And so, that was it. It was just like, and then we were writing a musical. And so that was the end of October. By the end of December, we had our first draft, 30 songs, 2-hour musical, full libretto. And
I missed the performance at Trinity House, but yes, I'm aware of it.
That was a very special night.
I can't be everywhere. I want to be places that I can't be, and that was one of them.
It was very special for us, I think, because the audience was just so generous and loving. And they laughed at all our jokes, and they cried at our brokenhearted moments. And like, an audience they don't have to do that. And they just really opened their heart to what we made, which was just an incredible gift.
So it's out there, it's done, but are you workshopping it? Are you planning on like trying to push it into theaters? What do you have any time to work on anything like that with your busy life?
Yeah, I know. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch of workshops. We did 4 or 5 workshops kind of in the winter into the spring. And then have been kind of taking a break. But the next step would be to be pitching it to theaters. And we have, some people have generously stepped up to make some connections. So that is what happens next. And on what timeline, I don't know.
So I might get to see it at some point.
I hope so. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a very prolific period for you. If you've got that, you've got 2 albums coming out, and you also mentioned the book that you're working on.
Yeah.
Okay, seriously, how do you find time?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking to my right and your left, and I'm going, that must take up some time too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky that in 2022, my now ex, then partner, supported me taking a year off of other work. And so I had a year to really kind of focus on writing the book. That was what I did. And the musical in that time. So that really helped when it was like my job. But the honest other answer is that I don't sleep a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
It doesn't show. You've
Yeah.
got a sparkly smile and beautiful eyes. And I would think you'd be like,
Well, it's one
oh.
of the gifts of parenthood, actually, is that you learn how to function on like not that much sleep. And, like I remember going back to work with a, 10-week-old or 12-week-old, and I was sleeping in like 2-hour spurts still. And I had to like be like present at my job for like, community meetings. And, yeah, it just kind of teaches you that you're capable of more than you thought you might have been capable of. So my motto lately has been, what else can I do?
It seems like you're doing too much already, but it's on you. What is the novel about?
The novel is about motherhood and war. It is a sort of intertwining narrative of a young Iraq War veteran recently returned from his second deployment. So that story takes place in 2009. And right before he left on deployment, his mother died. So that's like beginning of the book. I'm not giving anything away there. But it's really a story about grief and learning how to process the loss of a parent, which I was going through at the same time as I was writing this book. But in the context of also having the tremendous burden of having fought a war, and which also, has some, not the war part, but the experience for him also has some positives. So anyway. But intertwined with that is the story of his mother, and her story of motherhood and, motherhood and war.
Is it done?
I just finished my second draft, which was, really feels great. So I'm at the point now where I've got a sort of second round of readers who are going to give me some feedback, and then I'm going to start pitching it to agents.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So music, writing,
Yeah.
mother.
Mm-hmm.
Is writing what you do as a day job as well? Do you have a day job?
I do have day jobs.
I don't feel like you have time for this.
2 part-time day jobs. Okay. Yeah.
And a falling child.
Yeah.
Wondering what the noises are.
Yeah. I have.
Jeez, Obed. He's okay.
I have 2 part-time day jobs. One of them I help a friend run her business. And the other one, I work for a group called the Chamber of Mothers, which is an amazing nonpartisan nonprofit that's advocating for maternal health and childcare and paid leave for families. So I'm a community manager, and I kind of like help run their social media stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
This would be another time I either say, do we want to do 3 or 4 songs?
Okay.
It changes my next question.
Okay.
Do you want to do, if you want to do 3, I know what the next song is. If you want to do 4, we'll save that for the end, I guess.
Okay, let's do 3. No, let's do 4, sorry.
Okay, so play
4
another song for me.
Play the new song. Okay.
Or another song, whatever song you want.
Yeah, let's do the new one.
The new one. All right. Well, as you're getting your guitar on your lap, I'm going to mention there's a Blind Pig show with a full band on August 18th, which is, I guess, largely the reason you decided to go, hey, this would be a great time. Oh, yeah, okay. Because we talked about eventually having you on anyway. So Blind Pig Show is August the 18th. This podcast should be available before and after then. And it's a full band. Who is in the band?
So Faye Burns is going to play guitar with me, which is so exciting. And Mark Hugger, another guy who's played in a million bands around, he's playing bass. And then my old bandmates, one of whom is still in California and one of whom's in Austin now, are flying in. So Omar Cuellar is going to play drums with me, and Tal Ariel is going to play keys. Okay. And they're 2 of my dearest friends in existence. So it's very exciting. But yeah, I'm also releasing this song next week. And speaking of death, this song is like, excuse me, this is really a song about grief. And yeah, I don't know. I don't like to say too much about what a song's about. I guess people can kind of have their own thing about it. But the next album that this one is going to be on is it's a lot of songs about loss. And there was a lot lost, and not just me. We all lost a lot. So it's sort of through my eyes of that loss, but hopefully touching on sort of a more universal experience that we have. But this is a grief song. I'm not ready to write a song about you, so I'll write about your bench on Robert Dollar hiking trail. How I wound the roads of San Rafael without water and forgetting the California heat when the fog is still at bay. I'll write about the dust kicking clouds around my face and the manzanita trees grown scrubby in the drought. How I whisper to the radio tower, I'll trade my breath for an easy way out. But the California heat pushed its weight on me, and the bench came into view, and a fox did too. He hopped the path in front of me, and he hid behind a cottonwood tree. So I started making plans for fending off an attack that never came, an opportunity for rage. The California heat, when the fog is still at bay. I wish you weren't dead, but it is that way. But I didn't feel you. It was just a bench with a beautiful view.
Beautiful song. As we keep the guitar handy. California Heat. Annie Bacon is the guest today on Acoustic Alternatives, and a song from a forthcoming album. 2 albums coming out. It'll be on one of the 2.
Yeah, and that song comes out next week.
Oh, well, there
I'm
you go.
releasing that one next week.
Very good.
Yeah.
That song and songs from this album makes me wonder how, I imagine you're a lyricist first before music. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to match the music with the mood of the lyric?
Great question. There's a word for that. Do you know the word for this?
Don't.
It's called prosody.
That's a real
And
word?
isn't that a great word?
Can I play that in Scrabble?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Prosody. So that is when the music matches what the song is about. And I think for a long time, and you probably can sense this from, because you have listened, for a long time I called my songs sad songs in the major key. So they were sad because I just, I'm Irish. I write sad songs. That's just what I'm interested in.
That's what you have going on in
That's
your
what
life
I got.
too.
Right. But but the songs kind of don't always feel sad. They feel a little upbeat or happy or like what, you could just kind of tune out the lyrics and then enjoy the song and bop along. Yeah. And, with this new album that I'm going to be recording in September that this song is on, that has changed. And these are going to be sad songs that sound sad. And part of that has been on purpose and like a desired, I want to just be in the experience. And part of that has been a need to, a need for me to like say it the way it has to be said. And I think that I think of the music as like another dimension, right? So lyrics are one dimension, music is like melody is another dimension, and production is another dimension. These are all the sort of, you bring a
Bring a crackling piece of snack with you.
Yeah, maybe you could pause on that for 1 second.
Somebody's hungry.
It's seaweed. Seaweed's really loud. Who knew?
I guess.
Can you wait, please? Thank you. Yeah, this is okay. Being a mom, right?
Yep.
So.
Go ahead. Don't worry about it so much.
Okay. So there's these multiple dimensions that you have to work with, and I think that on some level in the past I have felt like other people needed me to not be as sad as I felt. And I think, so this is like making me a little emotional. I think that the experience of this past 4 years, it was so sad. And in order to say what I need to say, it just has to be sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, I was listening to this record, the newest of the records, when you sent me the 3, Nothing Stays the Same.
Yeah.
And I sent you a little message. I really just wanted to give you a hug after listening to that record. I mean, it was like, there's so much emotion there. I'm sorry that you've gone through so much that makes you write that kind of song. A song like California Heat, which is obviously about the loss of a friend.
Yeah.
That's just a lot to go through. But music, I mean, you probably know this because you're a music consumer as much as you are a player, but it can provide a service to people to make them feel less alone. Like somebody else has gone through what I've gone through.
Yeah.
And I thank you as a music listener who doesn't know how to play music, that, you know, sometimes you and your kind are writing my heart for me. Like you're giving me validation that what I'm feeling is not, I'm not alone.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
No, you're welcome. And thank you for doing what you do. I mean, again, it's just, we know that we're not the only ones who go through these emotions. We feel like we are at the time until we hear somebody else tell the same story in a different way. And sometimes it's more beautiful than the way I was thinking.
Right. Well, and also, like, I think sometimes because sometimes I'm like, you know, I don't know. I am, the nature of sort of my being is that I'm very self-absorbed. That's, you know, just sort of my orientation of the world. Mm-hmm. But it's not self-absorption for the purpose of like wanting to be the center of the universe. It's just sort of how I absorb the experiences. And so I'm always, the self-absorption is for the purpose and the aim of creating connections and creating care, creating compassion and empathy. And so sometimes when I like only think about the fact of how self-absorbed some of this is, I have to remind myself, it's like how hard I work to be able to say some of these things, that I'm like, there definitely are people out there who don't have the time or the space or the skill to like figure out how to say the thing, but might have the same feeling of me of, I need somebody to understand this, you know? And so to hear you say that, like, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Keep doing it.
Cool. I will.
We've talked about loss.
Yeah.
We've talked about being influenced by Irish music. And, and while you're talking about that, I'm like, I'm going to save this one for later. So now we're down to a question that's not on the sheet here.
Okay.
We just experienced, for me, a musical loss of one of my favorites from the 90s, Sinead O'Connor. Yeah. And it made me wonder what loss hit you the most, like your musical hero that you lost in your lifetime. You're like, oh my gosh. So just quickly, for me, I was really like, oh my gosh, Michael Hutchence, really? In Excess and Prince. I was completely caught off guard by those two. Like those two really make me go, ah.
Yeah. I think for me, the first one that really caught me off guard was Nina Simone. And I had recently, within the like last 2 years, been introduced to her music when she died in 2001 or thereabouts. And I think it was the first time that I had that feeling of like,
I don't know this person, but I'm really moved.
No, well, it was more like, I never got to see them play. I never got to sit at that person's feet. Yeah. You know, figuratively, I guess.
Right. Do the thing I'm doing with you.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect I would ever be able to actually sit at Nina Simone's feet. I just mean, be in the room where the genius is happening. And I think it was the first time where it was like, oh, I better make sure if I really feel like this about an artist that I do whatever I can to see them. So that was one that really hit me hard. I think that even though I had gone to see Leonard Cohen, his death hit me really hard too, just because he was such a huge influence.
He's Leonard Cohen.
Because he's Leonard Cohen, just spiritually, intellectually, and musically. And then David Bowie hit me really hard. I think that another one.
We didn't know he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird one too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of them hit hard. Prince definitely hit hard too.
I was just caught off guard.
Yeah.
I remember I was at a doctor's office. I'm like, what?
I know.
Prince, what?
Yeah.
Not yet. That's not supposed to happen for another 40 years.
Yeah. Sudden death is not fun.
No.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing for you. Too.
Sure. Reviewing, there's a new single coming out, California Heat, coming out very soon. August 16th is when that comes out. The 18th is the full band.
At the Blind Pig.
Song release, not quite a CD release party. Do you have any idea when the CDs are going to be available?
Well, I'm recording in September. The dates are locked in. The musicians are locked in. So I'm guessing with proper, the marketing that's supposed to happen beforehand, probably January for a release.
At the same time?
Oh, the other one? No, the other one.
You're not doing two, like Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 like Guns N' Roses did?
No, you know what's so strange about the other one is that I have been working on it by myself for 2 years. And I have taken it as far as it can go. And I have been looking for the next set of hands it's supposed to go in. I have an idea who that person is now, but I'm not going to say it because I haven't even approached them. And I don't know if they will even say yes. So that one might be 6 months or a year before that one comes out. But it's like all the songs are written, and like if I released it tomorrow, it probably would be okay. But I just have this strong feeling that it's supposed to be filtered through another set of hands first.
Follow your gut.
Yeah.
So 2 CDs or albums, a book, and eventually a musical.
Yeah.
Not much going on.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. A Blind Pig on the 18th. There's also Wheatland coming up for you on September 8th. The Arc, November 4th. You're playing with
Judy Banker.
Judy Banker. There you go.
Very excited about that.
And if people want to find out about this and any other newer dates that I don't have on the sheet, AnnieBacon.me, not .com.
No, she is a wonderful illustrator in France.
She's not you.
She's not me.
She speaks French.
She speaks French, yeah.
So do you.
We have a casual social media friendship because we often get tagged in each other's stuff.
What song would you like to finish with?
I'm going to end with I Want to Die Like Lou Reed.
Since we're talking about death again.
Since we're talking about death.
And why wasn't he on your list of people?
I know. Well, because I was shocked by his death, not by his death, but by his wife, Laurie Anderson's account of his death. Because I didn't really know that much about Lou Reed. And actually lately when I've been playing this song, a lot of people have been saying, who's Lou Reed? I know. I'm like,
they're 12.
You have some homework to do. No, they're like 30.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, you got some homework. But yeah, he died of liver disease, which sounds horrible. But his moment of death, which his wife, Laurie Anderson, wrote about in Rolling Stone, is an incredible account. And it's absolutely the way I want to die. But I was like, how did he get to die this death? And I've learned a lot about him since then in the sort of spiritual journey that he's been on. And there's a lot to learn from the path that he's been on. And but this song was written before I knew that. Sort of my own longing for a good death. Yeah. Are you ready? Okay. When my last breath's upon me, when I'm ready to lay down, I wanna stand up and walk outside with my lover around. I wanna sit in grass, open night. I wanna feel the sun, and with tight hands I want to show death that it's welcome. I wanna die like Lou Reed died, flying to the sun. He was goddamn lucky to be alive when his dying time had come. Those who walked on his wild side, not many stand still to face the end, hold their arms across their eyes, blocked out fading friends. And me, I'm stuck like Sunday morning, afraid I become that evil one who thinks that everything is dirt and we can't see one another. I wanna die like Lou Reed died, flying to the sun. But he passed through some unknown place. Gotta go before I'm done. up and walk outside with my lover around. I wanna sit in grass, open night. I wanna feel the sun, and with tai chi hands I want to show, and with tai chi hands I want to show, and with tai chi hands I want to show death that it's welcome. Sorry, that's probably terrible for your
It's all good.
levels.
Annie Bacon is my guest today, has been my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives from Grove Studios. Please look them up if you're looking for a place to practice or do a podcast or have your DJ skills honed louder than you can do at home. I don't have their address memorized, which is strange because I've said it, 120, 180 times. JohnBommarito.com if you want to find out more about how to sponsor or be a Patreon on my Patreon page or follow the other things that I do, whether you need a mobile disc jockey or whatever, or AnnieBacon.me to find out about Annie Bacon, who has been my guest today. And I wonder if Annie has, like I do, a list of songs that I want played at my funeral.
Oh, that is such a great question. No, but I'm sure if you gave me 10 minutes, I could come up with that
Well, we
list.
don't have 10 minutes. Tell me later.
John, thank you so much. This was really a wonderful
Thank
conversation.
you for the performance. It was nice to see
Appreciate you.
like stripped down and the acoustic like this. This is a great way to experience your music.
Thank
And
you.
people can do that not at the full band show August 18th. However, I bet you're doing a solo show.
Yeah, Wheatland, Farmhouse Folk on September 28th.
Oh yeah, up with Jen and Eric. Yeah,
With
yeah.
Jen and Eric, yeah. And then the Arc on November 4th.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. And appreciate anybody listening. If you enjoyed today's podcast and you haven't checked out the ones with Kyle Rasche or Annie Caps or anybody else that we mentioned that I said, oh, they were a guest. Well, they were a guest because there's a whole bunch of other locals as well as national folks like Glenn Phillips of Toad the Wet Sprocket. And Willie Porter hasn't released his album that we talked about a year ago yet, but he played 4 songs from it when he was here a year ago. So lots to discover. And thanks for being a supporter.